Hello and welcome to what I call a new video, and today we're going to be talking about Chapter 4 of Deltarune. Now, this video is going to be the exact same type of video as my Chapter 3 video, where I want to actually tell you what I think about the chapter that just came out. Also, I will be spoiling everything in the chapter at all times, so you can't just start watching this video as you start Chapter 4 and then watch it as you play. This is your disclaimer, I am going to spoil everything, except Snowgrave, because I haven't played that. That will be the next video. And stream, funnily enough. Well, if you're not a member, you're watching this, I already did the stream, but like, when you're a member and you watch this, I'm gonna do a stream tomorrow, so that's awesome. So as before, I mainly want to start with the good and then go to the bad. However, before we do that, there is a big elephant in the room. When looking at the entire chapter in a timeline like this, the Light World section is very, very long. Most of the chapter is still Dark World. However, a lot, and I mean a lot of the chapter is Light World. And to the point where it took us 2 hours of the stream that I did for Chapter 4 to actually reach the Dark World. So yeah, this is big. I don't necessarily hate it, I don't necessarily like it either. So this doesn't go into my likes or dislikes, this is simply to point it out. And I don't really care about it. To be honest, an entire chapter could just be Light World. It depends entirely on how good the Light World section is. The surrounding of the content doesn't mean anything, as long as the content itself is good. And in Chapter 4, I have to say, it is. So first, very good part. It's in the first part, the Holiday Estate. So at the beginning of the chapter, you basically get the mission, hey, go to church. And after that, you get the mission, hey, they probably got a cold at the Holiday Estate, so go ahead, go with Susie and Noel right to her house. And then we go to her house and we have this section. Apart from the fact that it's a goddamn, it's so sweet, like, just play it, it's real good. As soon as Berkeley calls and Chris gets, the opportunity to leave and actually search for the bunker code, this section really gets its medal, like, it really deserves to be here. As we are reading the code instead of the guitar, Chris pulls the soul out, cause, you don't want to do that. Chris don't want you to know. Chris don't want me to know. Chris don't want the player to know. It's unlucky, it's unfortunate. And then in the entire section of the goddamn house, Chris is a fucking gigachat. It's insane, I think. Like, motherfucker think they in an edit. It's crazy. Chucking bottles, chucking hockey cups, chucking a fucking hockey stick, like my ass is being beat up. They are aura farming on me. They are grinding on me. That's unfortunate. Now, of course, they got some crazy fucking aura from that. But in my expense, like, don't hit me with a damn hockey stick. It's peak. It's peak though. I gotta say, at that time I like to meet Canal. And I gotta say, it's peak, it's aura, it's pure fucking peak. I would give the entire section a 10 out of 10, because we get a bunch of goddamn law drops. We know that Esco's working there, and we didn't know that. That's insane, that's interesting. I gotta say, that's very interesting. We get a Mayor Holiday design. Damn, why is she so blue though? Her antlers? Why her antlers blue? Am I the only one questioning that? Has she got a motherfucking katana? Damn. Cinema. And apparently she's like attacking random people with that katana. Like she cut up some guy's some guy's suitcase. The hell yeah. Can't even complain. He voted for this. So yeah, whole section 10 out of goddamn 10. Loved every minute of it, even through multiple playthroughs that I had to do because I am an Undertale YouTuber. And this section never got old. I love it. Is peak cinema. Again, I haven't seen the Snowgrave one, so can't talk on that yet. We talk about that separately in the next video. The Light World Evo, also known as Evolution. See, we are in the Light World for a very long period of time. So, such a long period of time, in fact, that it is actively changing as we are in it. So the Light World segment starts with the normal sunny weather. It then goes into a rainy weather after the Holiday Estate. The thing. And after the chapter is over, we go outside again. It's still raining a little bit, but you can't see the rain anymore. You could say it's raining somewhere else, and then the raining somewhere else plays. But like not the melody, it's just the everything else. And I was like, damn, we fucking moving now. Also generally, like a lot of chapter 3 and 4, like there's a weird amount of Undertale music in it. I know Deltarune, Undertale's sister story, but like, you just gotta, just come here real quick. I'm very happy about this, don't get me wrong, but like, yeet, you know, I see a yeet. Pretty peak, it's the PP, I got a PP, a pretty peak. Multiple dark worlds, so we have 3 dark fountains in chapter 4, which is crazy to me, just wanna mention it. However, I made that joke, right, in the spoiling all of Deltarune chapter 3 video. I made the joke that chapter 3 was gonna have 2 dark fountains. Well, I was fucking wrong, it was chapter 4 that had 3! Well, technically, chapter 3 also had 2 dark fountains, but you could only go into 1, you know? 3 of them, right fucking there. Also, a little bit of a, you know, side note. What I also enjoy are the secrets. Specifically, the fact that the secrets are very attainable. Especially the secret boss, because you basically go to the end, right? Even though you can only get the secret boss during a specific time frame. So if we look at this entire chapter, these are the 3 dark fountains. You can get the secret boss in this section right here. However, this section is obvious enough so that you not getting the secret boss feels like your fault. And this was entirely unavoidable. Like, entirely avoidable, I mean. Because in chapters 1 and 2, you could go to this point and go all the way back to the beginning, like, of the dark fountain normally. However, this chapter is entirely different. I feel like as soon as you know, get the first dark fountain closed, it's understandable that you wouldn't get a secret boss. So yeah, while this is definitely a small amount where you can get the secret boss, it is entirely understandable in my opinion. The egg. I do have a problem with that. You can get the egg in a specific point in the second dark world, to which you cannot return. Why? And it's right next to a moss joke. Why? It's in a random window after 4 people, and the random window disappears if you do eat the moss. You have to go back into the whole hallway, and then you have to, get the fucking hint that you have to go back and forth between the non-existent door and hallway, which is how you got the other eggs, except chapter 3, which is not how you got that egg. You know? Don't get me wrong, the secret egg room itself, I absolutely love it. Like, I want to divulge it as quickly as possible, but we are again at that point where, for some reason, Toby decided that you're not supposed to be able to get every secret at any point in the chapter after chapter 2, which is a weird decision that Toby made. However, this chapter 4 is absolutely not as contrarian as chapter 3 is. You know, I like that it's not as contrarian as chapter 3, but it is still contrarian to some degree. And I don't necessarily enjoy that. I just want to be known. This doesn't actively affect it that much, my enjoyment of chapter 4, but I do want my opinion of this to be out here. So now, we're gonna talk about the egg room itself. Let me tell you something, brother. It's so peak. It's so peak. After chapter 3, where we actively talked to the person behind the tree, and there was some sort of familiarity with Chris, very interesting. And everyone forgets the person behind the tree. Very interesting. And now we got an art class with the tree people. There's 3, and suddenly they ain't nobody. So why are there 3 people in that art class? I don't fucking know. It's insane. Okay, and then suddenly everyone disappeared as soon as you start drawing. As soon as Chris starts drawing. And Chris only draws in a single line, but over and over each other again until there's only a void. And when the void is there, there's a tree above there. As there's nothing but the tree. Everyone is gone. And you have an egg. But you can never wash away everything. What does that mean? I don't know. But why is the guy there? He shouldn't be here unless Chris carries a forged card with them. Interesting, if I do say so myself. Personally speaking, I am very interested. Very, 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 very interested. Also, I guess this is a little bit of a secret. The fact that you can give Tanner right to Metaton, and there's a little story going on with Metaton falling in love with something that Tanner shows him. Which you love to see it, if I do say so myself. I like it. I like it. However, I am like 90% sure this was only done because you can technically kill Tenna in Chapter 3. If you win against Tenna by violence, the knight kills Tenna outright. And for the game to account for that, you can just give Tenna away. Which is, I mean, that's a good way of doing it because a large part of the character of Tenna was, I don't want to be ignored anymore. And I think Tenna is the most happy when just being watched. So giving Tenna to Metaton and then Metaton using Tenna is the best outcome. So thumbs up emoji. And the secret boss. Well, well, well! The freedom motif's back. Don't know why, but it's back. And you know what's also back? The fucking hero of justice, the legendary hero, the legendary hammer of justice. That's right, it's G-E-R-O-S. It's your soul. You love to see it. Yay. The green soul is back. You love to see it. We actually get another special soul interaction for the secret boss. Which you do love to see. You know, in Chapter 3 we obviously didn't get it because we were fighting the knight. Well, technically there's also a second secret boss in Chapter 3 and that is the whole Zelda game thing, so that's technically a soul mode if you want to talk about it like that. But you know. I very much enjoy the entire dynamic between Susie and Gerson. So this chapter being focused entirely on characterization, I enjoy it very much because we have spent 3 chapters with most of these people and now actually getting deep into it, getting our claws stacking right into it. I like it very much because this entire chapter is about Susie and Drelsey and not Chris, because Chris had that chapter in Chapter 2. So the way I think Deltarune is built up right now is that Chapter 1 is a Susie chapter. It's all about her redemption arc and how she needs to develop as a person to accurately be this hero of prophecy, or to be just a better person. Then Chapter 2 is all about Chris, unless you do Snowgrave, at which point it will be all about Noelle and the player. But the reason I'm saying it's all about Chris is mostly because of Spamton and, you know, the parallels that can be drawn between Chris and Spamton. And the fact that a bunch of times in Chapter 2, the things that the player chooses to do and the things that Chris would choose to do are very obviously at odds with each other. Because Chris, at various points, seems like, yeah, I don't want to do that, but I'm gonna do that because you're forcing me to. We have a little bit of that interaction in Chapter 4 as well, but that's just what I think of Chapter 2 as like a majority thing. Then we had Chapter 3, which was about the relationship between Susie and Drelsey, or more specifically, what Susie thinks about the whole Darkner thing. And that Drelsey is under the belief that darkness don't matter because darkness are just objects. And to that I say, go fuck yourself, I love the objects in my room. Sure, it may not have feelings, but I fucking love my objects. Every single one of them. I can tell you the story of every single object that's on my table right goddamn now. You know what? Let me do it real quick. See, I made this little thing here, this thingy-majiggy right here, in 2 parts. See, in 5th grade, no, not in 5th grade, in 7th grade, I joined the making stuff club at my school, and we were tasked with making a knife. I made a knife, and this is the knife right here. However, then we were tasked with making a guy, and I was like, hey, can I combine the two to make like a single thing where this is a knife holder? And then my teacher was like, that is very clever. You get an A. And so I got my first A ever because of this very thing. It's still sitting on my table today. You think I don't have any emotional attachment to this? You a motherfucker. Drelsey, be happy. This shit happy too. Are you happy? Yeah, you happy. This stick right here, picked it up after school one day, never let go of it. For most of the goddamn time I known him, he been on my door. However, I fucking love this stick. It's not going anywhere. If I ever get a partner and their partner say, why you got a stick? And then I'll tell them about it and they look at me weird, they ain't my partner no more. Cause, you know, this my fucking stick. This my boy. Yay. And in Chapter 4, we know about this whole knowledge thing. I feel like Chapter 4 is all about knowledge. And specifically, the player not knowing. Even in Chapter 3, we had all these codes, these parental locks, which Chris obviously knew, because even if the player doesn't know the code, you type it in knowingly. So Chris knows the parental locks because they are Toriel's child and probably hacked their shit years ago. But throughout Chapter 4, even in Ralsei's room, it's pretty evident that Chris and Ralsei know something the player doesn't know. Like, Ralsei keeps repeating, Susie's just so nice, with like a teary smile. What does that mean? Ralsei, does Chris know the prophecy? Am I the only one out of the loop here? You goatee fuck! I feel like the player is the only one out of the goddamn loop, because at the end of Chapter 4, Susie knows Susie knows how the prophecy ends. Ralsei knows how the prophecy ends. Chris probably knows how the prophecy ends. My ass, my fat fucking ass is the only one that don't. That's rude as hell. But also good storytelling, you know, is a theme. Yes, get it, is a theme of the story. Also, the codes being in 3 parts, and Chris probably knows the code, I'm gonna be honest. Like, at the end of Chapter 2, the bunker door went open. Chris didn't type anything, but like, the Knight and Chris, they're like this, you know? Like, when you beat the ass out of the Knight's like, yo, Chris, kneel real quick. And Chris was like, yeah, alright, yeah, sure. Like, Chris ain't the Knight, I win. But like, Chris ain't the Knight, but like, fellas, fellaroonies, you know? Chris a bitch to the Knight. I also like how absolutely everyone on Reddit went from it's obviously Chris Knight or it's obviously not Chris to immediately it's obviously Des, and if you disagree, you're a fucking stupid bitch. Like, genuinely, go on like r/Deltarune. Like, it's just that opinion. You can't have any other opinion, otherwise you get fucking cummed on. That's probably what Redditors do, I don't know. They are not gonna come to your house because that requires going outside. Anyways, yeah, I really like all of Chapter 4, I gotta say. It's no groundbreaking thing, I don't think. Like, it's just really good storytelling, emotion is there. I love characterization because I am a fucking bitch. That's why I like Chapter 2 so much, because it gave Chris so much characterization without overtly telling you anything. It's obviously heavily implied, and to miss the point is to be blind. But, you know, some people still did, so I don't know. But now at this point it's pretty fucking obvious. Yeah, we the player, Chris, stop coping, please. And for the final, I absolutely don't know what to think about the finale. The finale is into, right? I love how hyped it is. I love that it furthers the characterization. I love the visuals. I love the fact that Gerson, even after you do the whole secret boss and you know, the whole extra fight in the in-between Dark Fountain, he comes back and actually fights. However, I don't like that it's so fucking easy. That's a Titan. That's it? Really? Come on? That's a Titan. That's a whole ass Titan. What do you mean? So yeah, while I enjoy quite literally everything about the finale, I love the song, I love the everything, I love the Gerson, I love the Susie, I love the Ralsei, I love the weirdly unhinged frame of Ralsei being all happy-go-lucky while blood is on his cheek. I love all that, but it just takes me jumping in its mouth and then making the Dark Fountain disappear to destroy a Titan. So what that basically tells me is that all Titans are just Dark Fountains. So all I gotta do is destroy the mask. And all we need to do to destroy the mask is hit it hard enough, because that's what the double root buster is from Gerson and Susie. We just hit it hard enough and the mask breaks, and then we throw Chris in it. So all we gotta do to destroy an army of Titans, make a makeshift Chris cannon and shoot them inside of every single Titan that we have to fight. That's not, that it works in the moment, don't get me wrong. That's why it's there, right? That's why it's in the good part. For the greater lore, that's how we do it. And only Chris can do it. Yeah, so I'm not necessarily a fan of that. And I've already mentioned my gripes with the whole not being able to do the secrets at any point business. But I've gone into more detail on that on my Chapter 3 review, and I don't feel like repeating myself just because, you know, this is a different video. If you want to see my actual opinion about how the design philosophy... design philosophy of these two new chapters is a little weird considering where it came from, that being chapter 1 and 2. Yeah, it's very different. I don't necessarily like it the way that probably it was meant to be. A lot of people are complaining about it already, and some people are taking the piss. I want to be absolutely honest. I don't like the Deltarune and Undertale community because you people just are not understanding and are taking things a little too far at all points. And sometimes a little is a little more, and a little more. Sometimes you take things way too far. So right now I think we're taking this whole criticism of this design philosophy having changed a little too far, because some people are not criticizing anymore, some people are just outright being a bitch about it. So yeah, you can definitely complain about these design philosophies, but do it in a civilized manner. We are not cavemen, we are not throwing rocks at the screen, we are making inputs on a keyboard like civilized people. So how about we input civilized things on the keyboard when discussing this design philosophy change? Toby Fox did not kill your mother, Toby Fox did not kick you in the balls. Toby Fox made a design decision that you disagree with. Keep that in mind when discussing that. Now, I also want to mention that a lot of people have been having technical issues with Deltarune. Personally, I have not encountered any, which is why I haven't talked about them. However, if you have encountered technical issues, that is definitely something you can criticize Toby Fox for, and definitely something you can report to the development team. However, I have not seen any of these, so I cannot comment on them, which is why they weren't in my latest video and also not this one. If I had to give this chapter an out of 10 rating on its own, this would be the rating. 9 out of 10. Why not 10, you may ask? Well, personally speaking, after chapter 3 I was a little disappointed that it still ended up being the church. While I enjoy all of the intrigue that came from the Light World section and how much it changed from the Light World section each time, I was also a little disappointed that literally Onion-san is just not there. It feels like a bunch of the threads got pulled there. Now, I find that a little weird, just honestly speaking. However, the vast majority of the chapter is still phenomenal. A bunch of the chapter is perfect, and a bunch of the chapter is very intriguing for what is to come next. And we got a reveal at the end of the chapter as to when the next chapter releases, that being 2026 or next year, which I don't know how a lot of people were surprised by that, because chapter 5 was supposed to release together with chapters 3 and 4. Of course this one wouldn't take as much. I don't know why everyone's confused. Now, as an aside, this is no longer about chapter 4, but about the dual release that we experienced this time around. On the previous two chapters, we received them one at a time. We received chapter 1, then we received chapter 2, and I thought that was going to be a chapter by chapter release. It ended up not being that, with chapters 3 and 4 releasing at the exact same time. I don't like that. Because of the way I have integrated myself into the Deltarune community, and because of the way a lot of people have integrated themselves into the Deltarune community, we had to play this 2 chapters in multiple ways in like no time at all. I am recording this 3 days after the release of the 2 chapters. I have put 23 hours into Deltarune. This is the new copy of Deltarune, meaning that I have spent 23 hours of the past 3 days, which is a third, into purely just Deltarune. This is unhealthy, first of all, basically required of me because I didn't want to get spoiled. And even doing this rigorous task of playing everything before getting spoiled, I still got spoiled. I would much rather not have to wait 4 years per chapter release and instead wait less time but only get a single chapter. I feel like I'm pretty alone in this opinion, but it's just like, I am not a person that can play a video game for an extended period of time and actually pay attention at all times. I am simply not that type of person, and I feel like chapter releases beforehand were fine. There was nothing about chapter 3 and 4 that had them, that needed to have them be released at once. Of course, it gives the community a lot more to digest and a lot more to theorize with, but I think it would have just been better if we had one at a time. Frankly, I am in pain. I have been neglecting my actual job to do this, and I would rather not have to do that again. Tobias Foxworth, Toby Fox, please, I beg of you, just release them one at a time. However, what I think is going to happen is that Chapter 5 is going to release standalone, and then 6 and 7 are going to release together again. Aren't you having so much fun right now? I certainly am. Oh, and also I guess I should say how my ratings have upgraded. Chapter 1's the worst, followed by Chapter 3, followed by Chapter 4, followed by Chapter 2. Chapter 2 is a 10 out of 10, Chapter 4 is a 9 out of 10, Chapter 3 is a 7, and Chapter 1 is a 6. Nevertheless, with all of that being said, my fit goes absolutely goddamn hard. Cue the clown.